on purpose, or?
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
Can you message them?
Yes.
Yeah,
Chat.
I sent it there.
Well done.
Mute. So now I am unmuted, and I will say that again. We are here tonight in the Embassy of Ireland in Berlin, and we're delighted to be here with a live audience for the first time in a year. And also, this is the first time we are doing a hybrid event at the embassy. So we are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and this is a part of Culture Night in Ireland. So we're expecting people to be viewing from Ireland, hello, and hopefully in other places around the world and across Germany. So just to give you an idea of the event, this is the vernissage, the opening of Ireland in Frame, which is a street photography exhibition trail. We did it last year for the first time, and we were so happy with the response that we got from it that we're doing it again, and not only in Berlin, but also in Frankfurt and Cologne. So we're really, really happy to have 4 venues where the exhibition will take place in Berlin. There are trail cards. All of the everyone in the audience tonight has gotten a trail card, and if you didn't get one yet, you can speak to me afterwards, or of course Milena or Thomas, and you can go to the participating venues in Berlin. All of the information is available on www.irelandinframe.com. All of the venues that are participating. You should be aware of the opening hours because they're all different. Some of them are bars. One is a barber shop, in fact. One is a fine cost with Irish food goodies, and yeah, and a restaurant as well. So yeah, before I introduce to you the photographers who are taking part in the exhibition this year, I would like to invite Deputy Head of Mission, John Lynham, up to the podium to say a few words. John. Be careful of the wires.
Okay. Thank you very much, Candice. Vielen Dank, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren. Ich freue mich sehr, heute an dieser Veranstaltung teilnehmen zu dürfen. Ich habe jetzt einen vollen Kopf. Im Namen des Botschafters Dr. Nicholas O'Brien herzlich begrüßen zu dürfen. Egal, ob Sie nun hier im Haus der irischen Botschaft sind oder uns online von zu Hause aus zuschauen. Die Kunstausstellung Ireland in Frame geht 2021 in ihr zweites Jahr, und das Projekt wurde erstmals im vergangenen Jahr von der Botschaft im Rahmen der Kulturnacht in Ireland, so Culture Night in Ireland, ins Leben gerufen, um virtuelle Verbindungen zwischen den beiden Ländern zu einer Zeit aufzubauen. In einer Zeit, in der die Menschen nicht reisen konnten. Die Ausstellung ist inklusiv und Teil des Alltags, da sie in vielen lokalen Geschäften zu sehen ist. Dieser Alltag spiegelt sich auch in der Ausstellung selbst wider. Letztes Jahr beschrieb Derek Scully, Journalist der Irish Times, die Ausstellung als einen Hauch modernen irischen Lebens, der in die deutsche Hauptstadt gebracht und online für ein weltweites Publikum zugänglich gemacht wird. Obwohl sich das Leben in den letzten Monaten etwas normalisiert hat, besteht weiterhin die Notwendigkeit, auch diese virtuellen Verbindungen zu pflegen. Und so freuen wir uns, dieses Jahr wieder mit der Culture Night zusammenzuarbeiten und diese hybride Veranstaltung für ein Live-Publikum in der Botschaft und ein Online-Publikum zu Hause anzubieten. Es ist immer noch ein großer Gewinn, Kultur direkt auf die Straßen zu bringen und die wertvollen Einblicke in die irische Kultur zu erschließen. Einblicke, die eben jene Straßenfotografie bietet. Die diesjährigen Künstler sind Linda Brownlee, Danielle Houghton, Terry McAuliffe und Brendan O'Shea. Und Terry und Brandans Werke konzentrieren sich auf die Stadt Cork, Einige von Ihnen wissen vielleicht, dass es sich bei Cork um die Partnerschaft von Köln handelt. In diesem Jahr hat sich das Projekt auf die Städte Frankfurt und Köln ausgeweitet. Und wir danken unseren Kollegen und Freunden des Generalkonsulats in Frankfurt und der Galerie Lichtblick in Köln für ihr Engagement und Partnerschaft. Und die Ausstellung läuft insgesamt 2 Wochen und Kunstbegeisterte können sich auf www.irelandandframe.com eine Auswahl der Ausstellungen ansehen. Die Botschaft ist auch den Sponsoren Magners und O'Hara's dankbar, die die Ausstellung mit kostenlosen Getränken für all ihre Besucher erneut unterstützen. Besucher der Ausstellung können sich über unseren Veranstaltungslink anmelden und eine sogenannte Trailcard an einem der teilnehmenden Veranstaltungsorte abholen. Diese können dann an den Veranstaltungsorten abgestempelt werden. So können die Besucher neben der Ausstellung auch eine gratis Cider oder Bier genießen. Alle Informationen und die Online-Ausstellung sind auf www.irelandandframe.com einsehbar. 5 der teilnehmenden Lokale in Berlin befinden sich in irischen Besitz. Das sind Miserlo Bar und Prenzlauer Berg, Dalida Feinkost, auch im Prenzlauer Berg, Badfish Barbershop in Friedrichshain und Crazy Bastard Sauce in Neukölln. Auch gibt es Badfish Prenzlauer Berg und dieser Bar wird während 2 Wochen bei wirklichen Ausstellungen ein ganz besonderes Event ausrichten. In Frankfurt richten Bar und der Irish Pub Bornheim die 2 wirkliche Ausstellungen aus und in Köln präsentiert die Galerie Lichtblick die Ausstellung in ihrem Schaufenster und veranstaltet die Finissage am 1. Oktober. Ausgesuchte Poster werden zudem für die Dauer der Ausstellung an bestimmten Berliner U-Bahn-Hütten. Nun darf ich unserer Leiterin der Kulturabteilung, Mrs. Gordon, das Wort überlassen, die Künstler vorstellen wird. Und ich wünsche Ihnen allen einen wunderschönen Abend und viel Spaß bei dieser wirklich ganz besonderen Ausstellung. Dankeschön.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, I will repeat something that John said there in English, is in that there will be a special event also at Badfish Prenzlauer Berg, which all of the details will be available on the website soon, but it will be during the 2 weeks that the exhibition will be running. So now I'm going to invite the artists to, well, I'll do a quick introduction to the artists and then I'll invite them to talk a little bit about their work. And then we're going to have a bit more of an open discussion. And of course, we invite you, the audience, to ask some questions. My colleague Thomas is looking at the Facebook comments, if that's possible. How many phones have you got? And a microphone. So we did encounter a little bit of technical difficulties with the microphone. It does in fact work, the roving mic, but the people at home won't be able to hear you. So what we'll do is I'll just repeat your question when the time comes. Sure, we've got a bit of time before that. Anyway, so very warm welcome to the 4 artists who are taking part in the exhibition. You see the A1 posters in the hallway there. Each one of those is one of the artists. And as John said, these posters will be visible on the U-Bahn lines for the next 2 weeks as well. So we encourage you, if you see them, to please take a photo and send it to us on one of our social media platforms, of course, Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. So we're really excited to see these beautiful pictures of Ireland across the network of U-Bahn stations in Berlin. So welcome to Linda Brownlee, Danielle Houghton, Terry McAuliffe, and Brendan O'Shea. I'm going to start with you, Linda. So Linda Brownlee is an award-winning photographer and director based in London, currently in Raheny, my hometown, in Dublin. She is well known for her fashion photography and film that uses a documentary approach. Clients include Dazed and Confused, Nowness, and Vogue, and she has worked with household names such as Simone Rocha and Sinead O'Connor. Hi, Linda. Are you there?
Hi, I am Candice. How are you?
Oh, okay, we can't hear you now.
Maybe will we just check if it's just me, or Brendan, do you want to say hi?
Hi, hello everybody. I can hear you.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry.
Okay.
We had this working earlier.
No problem.
Was it because you changed to the music?
1 minute.
Excuse me, folks. The output is the built-in, so now, can we hear you?
Yeah. Hi,
Okay,
Candice.
Ben, can you hear us now?
There you are.
Ah, brilliant.
We've got you.
Oh, phew.
So, Linda, we can't see you for some reason, but I presume that you're visible to those at home.
I think maybe I am, because I think we can all see each other, can't we?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, shall I start?
Yes, please. Hi.
Okay.
So, Linda, maybe you could start actually by telling us about the equipment you use to shoot on for those in the audience who are photographers, and I'm
Okay.
sure would be interested.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I do a lot of project work, and then I do commercial work. And a lot of the commercial work I'll shoot on digital 35mm, a Canon, for any techies interested, a Canon 5D. And then with a lot of my personal work, I shoot it on film, and I use an array of cameras. I use Hasselblad would be a favorite. I use Mamiya 7s and Pentaxes. 6.7s, Pentax 6.7. So I kind of like to mix it up. And my preference is usually film, but it's not that convenient for doing commercial work. So a lot of what you'll see, and actually all of what you see in the exhibition has been shot on film on those cameras. Yeah, a mixture.
Great. So do you want to just take a moment to talk us through your collection that's a part of the exhibition?
Yeah, sure. Well, I try and share. I'll share it now just so we can have some visuals.
Great.
I'll share. I'll just go for full screen. Okay, can you see a first image here?
Yes, we can see it here.
Okay, brilliant. Well, first of all, just the collection I'm going to show you spans over the last 6 years or so, and it's been shot in various parts of Ireland, 5 different parts of Ireland. It's a mixture of project work, and it's a mixture, and some of it is kind of commissioned work that I've done for magazines. And when I was putting this collection together, I realized that 80% of my time taking photographs is definitely by the water. But I'm going to start with Dublin. And so these first few images were taken between Raheny, where I now live. I've been here for 3 years. And I came back after spending 15 years kind of developing a career in photography in London. And the first thing I did when I came home to sort of settle in was to start taking these very long, lengthy walks between Raheny and Dublin City, trying to kind of orient myself and get to know the place. And I often use photography to do that, to kind of understand the place, just as a way to explore, and also a tool to get to know communities. There's nothing like having a camera to kind of as a way to approach person and get to know them. So this is all of these images are part of a bigger collection which was exhibited in 2019. And once I kind of had done that and sort of settled in, this is moving to another part, a familiar part of Dublin called Howth, which is on the north side of Dublin as well, and somewhere where I go out to swim a lot. And this sort of, I ended up taking a few pictures. It's not an unfamiliar sight. We've seen people jump in at harbours around Dublin. And this particular day, it was kind of when the restrictions had just lifted, I think after lockdown 2, and the energy was particularly high, and it was incredible. So that was just sort of a lucky thing to kind of, as I was walking around, happened to have my cameras, and there was loads of young people jumping in. Moving over to Achill Island, that's where I've been kind of visiting for about 25 years on holidays, and I've published various books about the area, but I was back here for The Guardian on a commission to photograph Dua Beach, which has a habit of disappearing and appearing. So it was sort of all about sort of trying to kind of just explore the community around Dua and the story. Also, this is another commission I did, and staying with the water theme. It's right down to Garnish Island and Glengarriff in County Cork. This was for a magazine called Pleasure Garden, and it was all about you know, every story was all connected to the water and gardens on the water, and Garnish Island was a completely magical place. So I went down a few times to photograph people coming in and out of the island, and I was brought on a small kind of going on the ferries, but also on those kind of local guys that will bring you out in a boat there. I was photographing, you know, around the ports where fishermen kind of hang out. And then one of the things I wanted to include in this exhibition, which I felt was very important as someone who kind of had emigrated and was coming back from Holyhead to Dublin many times, and anybody who has emigrated and lives in the UK will be well familiar with the Ulysses ferry. It's Irish ferries. They have a humongous car ferry. So this is sort of one of the things I kind of, through the years, was to document the trips and the people I met along the way, and try and capture kind of the mood of those voyages back and forth. So that's where I'm going to leave you. A brief introduction to the work.
Thank you. So yeah, we'll move on to the next artist, and we'll come back to you then with more questions, if that's all right. That was really lovely to see the collection again and to hear about it. Danielle, are you there?
Hi.
Danielle Horton.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Hi.
So Danielle Houghton is a practicing street photographer based in Dublin, Ireland, and is a founding member of the International Observed Photography Collective. Her work has been exhibited both in Ireland and abroad in many other countries, and she was awarded the 2015 Irish Times Amateur Photographer of the Year, and has been published in various publications such as Observations magazine, and she is included in the David Gibson book 100 Great Street Photographers. Danielle will soon be releasing a monograph through the publisher iShot. Hi, Danielle.
Hi. Hi. Will I go ahead and I'll go ahead and bring up my photos. And sorry. Of course, this worked smoother earlier, naturally.
Everything does.
Yeah, I think I'm getting there.
We're all right. This is the world. There we are.
Well, I was always interested in taking photographs of people, but I took a long break from it. And in 2010, the Photographers Gallery in London ran a project called the Street Photography Now project, where different street photographers gave an instruction each week, and you had to respond to it and take pictures based on that. So I was on maternity leave, and that just kick-started my love and interest in street photography. This picture is one of my favorites, and this was as a result of one of these instructions we were given. The instruction was, find a corner or spot somewhere that interests you and photograph the scene for much longer period of time than you would ordinarily. Often with street photography, you snap and you move on. Whereas here I stayed, it was a Dublin Pride Day and everybody was having great fun. I noticed these three people. The guy in the red hoodie was actually with the girl in the grey top. And I observed them, and I found their interactions quite intriguing, and I stayed observing them longer than I probably should have. And then lo and behold, he turns around and starts kissing the other girl. And I like to think I've just captured that moment of, I don't know if it's confusion or jealousy. So that's just one of the ways I followed the instruction. Moving on here, this is one of my favorite places to photograph in Dublin. It's the 40-foot in Dún Laoghaire. I was actually showing a friend of mine around, my friend Fadi from Lebanon. And again, when you show a visitor around, you see the place in a new light. And I really appreciated the light and the moment and the scenery that we have here in Dublin and the coastline. So I just think this is a nice, fun shot. And I love the people who swim in the 40-foot every week. I mean, they just amaze me. And they're just a hardy bunch of people. This one again it's a good example of why you should probably have your camera with you at all times. I was actually just going to Penny's down the road, and I saw this man having his lunch. Well, it was really breakfast. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but obviously it's a breakfast meal. I loved his elegance, the ring, the pose. So I just took the picture quite quickly, and I just think it represents, you know, something quite Irish, you know, the white bread, the ketchup, the cup of tea, of course. This one then is a good example of, I think you have to go with your instincts in street photography. Carl, my husband, and I used to take it in turns to go take photographs because we had young kids at the time. And I had decided I was going to go to the coast, which I often do. I was heading to Clontarf, and something possessed me to say, no, you're going to go to the Phoenix Park today. So I did a U-turn, drove my car to the Phoenix Park, drove through, didn't know why I was driving through the Phoenix Park. I saw a polo match going on. I said, okay, I'll stop there. So I got out of the car and went to look at the polo match. I saw this girl with her hair flying out of the car. And my decision was, do I run and take a close-up of that girl, or do I try and capture the scene? And then I heard the dog barking. And so I said, oh, I have to go for the whole scene. So I came home and I showed my husband this. And actually, I didn't like it that much, but he really liked it. And this has actually become my sort of most successful photograph. And it was purely based on that I went with my gut instinct that day. This one was taken during one of the celebrations for the Easter Rising. It was actually the 99th year celebration. And I just like this because I think it reflects modern Dublin. I mean, it has the old religious statue that was on O'Connell Street for years, but then it has a new construction. It has the ladies in their Easter bonnets, but it's very warm and embracing, and everybody talked to each other that day, and there was a great sense of pride in the city. So I just like the contrast of the old and new here. This is utter madness. My brother every year does the Liffey Swim, where 600 hardy souls swim up and down the Liffey in a competition. This is some of those people about to jump in the water. It's mad. It's great fun to walk along and look at it. It's a wonderful sight with the city in the backdrop. It's great fun. This was based on another instruction where we really had to go wandering aimlessly. I ended up in Arbor Hill, an area I don't know too well in Dublin. And again, this is taken in January. And if you know, the light in Dublin can be grey a lot of the time. But if you get the sun in the winter, there's nothing better. The golden light is just amazing. And so the light attracted to me here. And of course, the lady and her traditional headscarf kind of juxtaposed with the sort of cheeky modern graffiti. So I think every street photographer would have had to sort of take this shot. Next, this is outside a shop in Donnybrook. The shop is great fun because they always put random animals outside their shop. They've done cheetahs, tigers, everything. And so I had to stop when I saw the little piggies. And of course, in a street moment, I got very excited when I saw the man with the wheel coming along. And in my head, he's just generating all the little piggies when he's walking along with his wheel. This is in town, again, just it's great fun to just kind of wander down alleyways. I just decided to wander down this alleyway. I was with my family. They didn't know where I'd gone. Of course, I disappeared like I often do. And I heard him making actually a strange musical sound. And he was singing to the birds as he was feeding them. So I snapped it. I just thought it was a nice normal picture of birds. And I didn't notice that the box had been blowing up at the same time until later on. So that's what I like about this photograph, the unexpected things you can sometimes find in a street photograph after you've taken it. This is near Poolbeg in the Great South Wall there. It's a lovely walk, again, another coastal walk. That's great in Dublin. And I think there's a perception that backs are boring of street photography by some people, but I don't think they are. I mean, I think it suits it here. It reminds me of the poem, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. It's just, again, with the bit of light, the colour pops in Dublin. And it's a great walk if you're ever in that area. Again, Dublin and Ireland has been great for Pride, and this is a dog showing his support. This is near Dublin Castle, and so the old cobblestones are a lovely part of Dublin to still see. Again, here I am at the coast again. I think I was meant to be doing something completely different that day, and I just took a sneaky drive down to the coast, and this gentleman was doing his exercises on the pole, and I just saw it as him turning a crank in my head. So I just couldn't resist taking this photograph. And this is another example of why you should always have your camera with you. I was actually at a work meeting, driving home, so it was early enough in the morning, and I saw this, and I said, okay, I mean, there is a path, there was more than one path, but of course they're choosing to walk in the sand. Luckily, I could pull over safely and park, which you can't always do, but so I just had to capture it. I just thought it was a bit surreal, which is often what I like in street photographs. And this is back to the 40-foot. I just love going there personally, it's not always to photograph, but the cascading movement down the rocks here is what attracted to me. And also the fact that big signs everywhere that you're not meant to jump in, but everybody always does because this is Dublin, that's what you do. This is the 1916 commemoration, and you know, in Ireland we are in denial about the weather. I mean, we do not expect it to rain ever, and then when it does we can't handle it. So they were giving these plastic poncho things out. It started raining, and it was good to see that somebody probably quite high up in the Guards couldn't put it on, just the way none of us can ever put them on. And the funny thing is, of course, 2 minutes later, it stopped raining. And I just find these things, I'm just completely attracted to them. Whenever anybody's wearing one, I have to take a picture of them. So this is at Smithfield Market in town, which I think is possibly gone by now. It was a horse market that was on regularly, and you could buy and sell horses. And the girl, beautiful, traditional Irish hair, and of course I was being a bit cheeky and making sure that she obscured the horse, but I mean, I think it's flattering. I don't think I was trying to insult the girl. I mean, so it's just a bit of fun. Near where I live in Leopardstown, there's often circuses use the Leopardstown Racecourse car park, and of course I like sort of having a little look behind the scenes. So while the tent was there and the trucks, this is where the circus performers stayed, but I just found it a little bit bizarre to have an elephant there just randomly like that. So that was that shot. This again is in Dunleary. This is, I noticed the car with the frog and the couch, and went to take the picture, and then I saw the man with the eye patch walking down the street, and I thought, there is no way I'm going to not take the man with the eye patch. The owner of the car was about to drive off, but of course I plonked myself in front so he couldn't drive off because I was determined to get the guy with the eye patch at the same time. The owner of the car actually obviously looks a bit bemused at me, but that's for two reasons. Not only because I had plonked myself in front of the car, but also because it turns out he knows my brother and he recognized me from knowing my brother. So in good old Dublin fashion, everybody knows everybody. This is just I just like the traditional way people dress in Dublin. I mean, I can't resist a flat cap. And of course, the other gentleman had just come off his bike and straight onto his pipe before he even took his helmet off. And finally then, this one, it was the family, we went on one of the Santa steam trains, and this boy, I mean, he just evoked Harry Potter to me. I mean, I just felt like I was going on a trip to Hogwarts. So I just, you know, obviously had to take this picture. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much. I don't know if you could hear that you got quite a reaction from the audience on a number of your photographs.
I couldn't hear a thing, so.
Okay, I think a lot of amusement from a lot of your work there. So we'll move on to Terry. Are you there, Terry? Terry McAuliffe.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh yeah, good, that's good.
I can't see you yet, but I will now in a second. Now, so Terry McAuliffe, born and bred in Cork City, began taking photographs only a few years ago in 2019. He has been documenting the streets ever since, and notably the loneliness and sense of abandon that the pandemic brought. He's inspired by cinema, music and art, and of course by the city where he lives, Cork. Hi, Terry.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good. Maybe you can start with telling us about the equipment that you use, and then you can talk us through the collection that's part of the exhibition.
Yeah, no problem. So like you said, I started in 2019 and picked up a really cheap Canon 5000D going on holidays to South Africa. So I started on that, just taking a quick few snaps, and now I moved on to Fujifilm system. So I'm using a Fujifilm X-T3 and a Fujifilm X100V. So yeah, I'm a Fuji guy now for all the techie guys.
Okay, great. Do you want to share your screen and talk us through the collection?
No problem. So can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Perfect.
sorry. Okay. So yeah, like you said, obviously I started in 2019. So all the kind of pictures that I've taken have been through like the pandemic and things like that. So I've decided to call it Neon Nights and Daylight, a love letter to Cork City. So the first image here is a street in Cork called Douglas Street. And like I started during the kind of the pandemic. So hitting the streets in kind of like the blue hour time. And just it's struggling to see any type of person walking or doing anything at all. So as I was walking in the street, I seen this guy with his shopping bag, and I use a 23mm here, so just to kind of get the scale of the person walking down this kind of lonely street. And the reason the colors are so like high in it is that because I want to get the feeling that I did at the time of taking the picture rather than getting the reality of the picture. So that's, as you're going to see through the pictures, they are going to be like really high color and things like that. So on to the next picture here is just all during the pandemic, all the pubs were closed, but they kept their lights on. So a lot of water was hitting my lens. So I just took a picture, took it home and had a look, and it was really abstract, had that loneliness again to it, kind of depressing, but yeah, so that's that picture. So yeah, I seen this guy walking, kind of followed him for a few steps, and he kind of got into these little barber shop kind of awnings. So it gave me that kind of like Edward Hopper vibe, which I kind of go through at night. So I kind of have Edward Hopper kind of artist in my head when I'm kind of taking pictures in the evening. So this one here as well. So walking the streets in the evening, just looking for things to do. Spotted this guy standing outside, and obviously it was closed, and with the sign in front saying this must be the place. Just kind of like, you know, it was closed, so he was kind of looking to go, was he going to go in or not? So that was that picture. Yeah, this one here, only things open were like late kind of delis and things like that, and coffee shops were the only things you can get takeaway coffee or whatever. So this is just one here. Again, just ramping up the colors to kind of make it look like how I felt when taking the picture, rather than it being complete reality, just kind of bringing you into kind of like a dream, like that's kind of what it was like walking around the streets at night on your own with no one on the streets. So on to the next image here. So just the guy sitting on a bus on his own, just gave me that kind of like claustrophobic feel again of like loneliness and abandoned and things like that. So yeah, on to the next one. Yeah, again, walking the streets again in the evening, and this girl is chilling, kind of getting her drinks for like heading off to like a house party probably. But she was kind of really coolly standing against a pole. Yeah, again, similar kind of image. And as I was kind of shooting and things were starting to open back up, there was people hitting the streets and things like that, and it started to kind of go into summertime and the lights started to come out, so everything started to seem more optimistic and things like that. So I took this is actually of a place in Cork City which is actually going to be demolished in a couple of months' time. It's a really iconic building, and it was called the Kino Cinema, and it was painted by a Dublin artist called Mazer. So I just wanted to get like a picture of that before it's actually gone forever. So that's that image. Again, there's a lot of graffiti in Cork as well. I didn't want to take stereotypical images of like men in paddy caps walking around, you know, stereotypical Irish images. So we do have a real graffiti side and bohemian side to the city as well. Yeah, just walking through parks and things like that, and got talking to this man in the park, and he just gonna asked me, did I have any time to have a chat with him? So I asked him, could I take his picture, and just waited then to see with the birds flying past. Yeah, again, as you can see, I like to take pictures of just people on their own, interesting characters, colors, things like that. This is a fairly stereotypical Irish man, to be fair, with his paddy cap and things like that. And as you can see, the light is starting to come back into the images now. There's people hitting the streets, and the sun is out, so things are starting to get more optimistic. So I was hitting the streets more in the daytime rather than the nighttime. As you can see here, just the guy strolling with his bike. I actually like the buildings in the background with the symmetry as they're kind of getting smaller. And as he's just about to touch the kind of stop sign, it kind of bends over a tiny bit. This guy was actually a very interesting man. As I was walking through, this is a rundown hotel in the background, and he gave me like an hour-long story of what used to be there before, and he knew everything about Cork City. So I asked him, could I take his picture? So he was absolutely delighted that I would take his picture. And I also loved that the shadow was hitting the pole and him and just like stretching him out there onto the wall as well. But you can see like the very dramatic colors and things like that. Here, just a cab driver in the city center. I took my camera everywhere for the past like 2 years. So all I was shooting just kind of on my way to work and on my way home. This is very early in the morning, just a cab driver leaning against his car, very empty streets. So this is just kind of coming out of the pandemic now. And as you can see now, a lot of life coming to the city here. And I'm always again looking for interesting characters and interesting people and things like that, and interesting scenes. So I just seen this guy like all dapper with his cane walking through. And this I shot recently when everything started to open up in the city. Just I love the juxtaposition of like all like the typical girls heading out, and they're all going to the left, and then this girl just doesn't care. She's heading her own way in her own clothes, and her own style, heading off in the other direction. And yeah, for the last image then, this is a local character in Cork. He feeds the pigeons every day, and he asked me to take his picture. So I took a few pictures with this girl, started to interact with him then, and yeah, you can see kind of like the optimism and the life coming back into the city. So yeah, kind of goes from kind of depressing pandemic into like optimism and, you know, back to life to the city again. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you, Terry. Optimistic note as well. It feels optimistic here too. So we'll hear from the last photographer of the night. I mean, for now, and then we'll have Q&A with all of you. So Brendan, are you there?
I am. Yeah, Candice.
Brendan O'Shea, hi. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Candice. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Great to have you here. So Brendan O'Shea is a multi-award winning fine art photographer and street photographer, also from Cork in Ireland. Brendan's work has featured in global campaigns with Apple and in numerous print and online publications. He has exhibited his photography around the world and has spoken about his work at conferences and in workshops. And in 2017, he was iPhone's Photographer of the Year. So Brendan, maybe, well, I mean, do you want to start with by telling us about the equipment that you use, and then you can share your screen.
Great stuff, yeah. So the equipment that I use is what everybody in the audience and at home has with them all the time, is the smartphone, the iPhone. And I also shoot with Fujis and Nikons, but the camera that has won my heart is the iPhone. And I think the reason being is that I went from a situation where I would notice something and experience, wow, that would make a great picture, and not have a camera with me, to always having a camera with me and it, actively seeking out photographic opportunities. And it really helped me to, develop as a photographer. So I'll share my screen and walk you through some of the photographs that are in the exhibition. And that the photographs I'm going to show you are from Cork, some from Dublin, Tullamore, and I think one or two from Belfast also. What I like in photography is that it helps me to understand things. And I suppose the way that I would, if I was asked what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to see what can be seen and how to see it. And I like confusion, I like distortion, and I like connections with people, so that you see in some of the images that I'm showing, they'll be straight on that I'm standing in front of people taking photographs. And that one of the questions that I get asked quite a lot is, the ethics of street photography, and do you ever have bad experiences? And the answer I always give is that people's first reaction is never, they're never kind of angry or anything like that. It's curiosity. And that, wouldn't be afraid to show people the photographs that I take. And, very often that if they like it, I would email them the photograph. But initially when I'm showing photographs here, photography is a very subjective thing. And then presenting images that may look a little bit, wow, you're intruding on people's privacy. But the reality is, that people react quite well to the photographs I show. This one is taken in Cork, and I really like, if you can zoom in it, you would see that the reflection and the girl in the center has the clock on the opposite side of Patrick Street. And I got a bang on in the eye, which was a bit of luck. And I think in photography, I find it 99% frustration, but when patience meets luck, everything works out well. Okay. Perspective is very important for me in what I'm trying to present in terms of photographs. So this one, giving the point of view of the salary man looking onto the street. And this was taken back, I think, around the marriage referendum. And it's just kind of a contrast and thinking about the old and the new Ireland coming in. And a lot of the photographs that I'm showing will show how Ireland has changed, and how the cultures are mixing and how generations are mixing together. I'm introducing with some black and white photographs. I tend to, anything that gets my visual attention, I will shoot. And similarly, I'll shoot in black and white, sometimes in color. I like high contrast scenes when there's harsh sunlight. So some of the images here would be shot in black and white. With the pandemic on Lake Terry, I found it very hard to get out on the streets and take photographs. Initially, when I went out with the intention to take, to kind of document it, I just found it an unnerving experience for myself personally. And it took a while before I gradually got back out in the streets to shoot people experiencing the pandemic. But I think the great thing that we've learned from the pandemic is how adaptable we are as humans, and we get on with things. And I suppose eventually I got on with my own photography as well. So here are just a couple of images, kind of cliche images with people wearing masks on the streets of Cork. And again, that these are shot with the iPhone. What I love about the iPhone is that it allows me to get in really, really close, and that I would be observing people as they come towards me, and I would, be weaving in and amongst people. And then as I'm getting close to them, I would snap the shot. Technically, what I'm doing is getting zone focusing set up so that within a distance of a meter and a half, I'll have the subjects in focus before I connect with them. And I like just this up close feeling that you can have, because it's what we experience on the street with the black and white images here. And then we're moving on to color images after this one. Actually, I should talk about these ones here with that again, about connections. And I really like finding myself in the images as well. I like distortion, and I like, you know, putting myself in the photograph. So sometimes if you look closely, I'll be able to see my own reflections in the shots there. So underneath, I have my camera held with the guy staring back out at me. And again, it's a look of curiosity that he has. I like the connection that the eye contact gives, and kind of the tension that it creates in the photograph with the viewer. This photograph here, I just absolutely love it. You know, again, when people ask, how do people react in the street? Do they get angry with you? And I think this photograph is a great example of, no, usually they don't. If you're, you know, kind of exhibiting that what you're doing is, you're just, you know, visually curious, you're not doing anything wrong, you know, people react well. And the great thing about this photograph is that there was a local publication in Cork published a couple of my photographs, including this. And the guy sticking his tongue out at me, that his granddaughter contacted me, and she was absolutely delighted with the photograph and told me that the guy sitting next to him is her grandfather's brother, and the two of them, you know, would head in town in an afternoon, go for a few pints, and that they were always having the crack. And when she saw the photograph, she said it was just him, it was just perfect, that's what he was like. So it was fantastic. I was able to, you know, email on the photograph to her. And I just love the playfulness in this, and, you know, kind of the sense of humor that Cork people have, and just having a bit of fun, a bit of crack with it. This one here, I think, kind of demonstrates the changing, you know, landscape in Ireland, and, you know, that how, you know, that we're not 99% white, 99% Catholic anymore. And on the streets in Cork, you'll see a lot of, you know, people engaging with each other. And it was this one afternoon that there was stand with Muslims who were engaging with people on the street, and I was observing the conversation that was going on between the two of them. And there's a saying in street photography that if you see it, it's too late. And one of the things that I try to get in my photography is gesture, because gesture adds so much. So initially I saw, you know, the animated gesticulations of the two guys, but when I went to take the photograph, their hands were by their side. But I think that if you have a little bit of patience, people will repeat what you observed. And I was able to get in, and they again became animated, and hands were up. And I love just the engagement between the two of them. And I took a whole series of photographs from this encounter. Then we have another one where, like that, we had the Muslims on the streets in Cork, and then we have the Christians on the streets in Cork. And I just loved that it was a young guy who was, you know, with Christianity, and there was an older guy coming over to him, and, you know, trying to put him right in a few things. And similarly, again, that, you know, I took a number of photographs to get the one that I wanted. And I think that's an important thing for people looking at the photographs here. They may think that we're all just, you know, taking one shot and we're getting it right every time. To get most of the shots that I'm showing, it would have taken multiple photographs to get one that I'm happy with when I'm back reviewing it. This scene here is more about the, you know, the kind of graphic elements, the colors, and, you know, so I had my frame set up, and then just waiting for the human elements to come into it. And I just like that, you know, the colors and the vibrancy in it, you know, probably wouldn't remind you, like if you look at it first, you wouldn't think it's Ireland, but, you know, this is Cork, and it's kind of, you know, tattered and old in parts, and other parts are new. And I just like the, you know, the colors, the sense of movement that the woman coming into the scene brings as well. This was taken in Belfast in the summer, and this is again just wandering the street and looking for interesting characters. I just loved the intense, you know, the conversation the guy was engaged in on the phone. Loved the cigarette that he's holding. Cigarettes are always cool in photographs, but bad for your health. And then the kind of cherry on top later, didn't notice it when I got it, was goodbye to 2020. So just giving it a sense of time as well with it. And, you know, the optimism that we had back in December 2020, not knowing 2021 will probably continue to be as bad. This is an older photograph from 2018, and it's in Tullamore. And I just could not walk past the character here, that I just loved that he was sitting outside the pub, having a pint bottle of Guinness, which you don't see very much of, and that he was really in his element, oblivious to everything else that was going on. And I had to, you know, kind of position myself so I wouldn't intrude on the scene, so I wouldn't interrupt, you know, turn around to me. Because I think with street photography, a lot of the time what you're trying to do is get the unguarded moment. And, you know, sometimes, unfortunately, when people see you with the camera, they'll pose for you and you'll get the, you know, the big smile and that. But I just wanted to get him in his moment, and here smoking a cigarette. This one, again, that, you know, I would be attracted to colors, and like I was attracted to definitely, you know, kind of colors that she has in her hair. I think there was some cosplay exhibition or convention going on in Dublin that day. And this was on, I think, Dame Street, or one of the big streets in Dublin. And I saw her on the opposite side of the street. And coming from Cork, which is a smaller city than Dublin, in Cork, you can safely go out and cross the street without the cars killing you. Dublin is a little bit bigger and a little bit more dangerous. And, you know, very often to get the photograph, I'll risk my life. And this one, I ran across the street, put the camera up and got the shot. But I love the, you know, the gaze that she has, and the kind of, you know, again, I think it's curiosity that she has about herself, but, you know, we have curiosity about her too in getting the photograph. This one then, back in Cork, again, and it's just one of those, you know, photographic serendipity that I was waiting for a friend, and, you know, killing time, turned around, and this scene just appeared in front of me. I just loved everything about it, the colors, the mannequins, and that the girl was, you know, concealing herself with her hair, looking down into her phone. And that, you know, that for me, photography is about framing, and the art is in reframing. I know that we have in the frame up there, but so like that, initially it was attracted to the girl, but then I had to do a little bit of reframing to get the composition right in it. But it's one that I like. Again, this is another one with, like, you know, reflections, distortions, you know, layered effect. I like all these things where that, you know, photograph can be something that you can go in and inspect. And this is a scene in Dublin. And if you look at the right center of the photograph, you'll see my reflection in the photograph as well. And I love the different ways that, you know, the people are looking. I like the kind of the dirt and grime that is given with the, you know, on the windscreen. I like the tones of the greens that are there as well. This one, I think, is the one that was used for the posters. And again, like going back to what I was saying, for me, what photography is about, trying to see what can be seen and how to see it. Cork has changed for the better very much in the past 18 months, 2 years, and there's an awful lot of street art around the city now. This is by Shane O'Driscoll, who I'm eternally grateful to, because I've got, you know, so many photographs of his work around the city. But I wanted to, you know, to present it in a way, you know, maybe that would be unique and different to what you know, other people would photograph with it. And just to demonstrate how I got the photograph, I used 2 phones, and I put one phone like this, and then I put my iPhone down here to get the reflection, and then just flipped it when I got it back out. So it's not a puddle, it's a, you know, black mirror screen to give the reflection. So I always try to see, are there different ways that I can present photographs. And I think this is the final one in the exhibition. Again, for me, it's the kind of the graphic elements of the you know, the red and white stripes, the high contrast with the shadows and the highlights. And I would have loved had the mother and the communion girl in her dress with masks come in the opposite direction, so we'd have them in frame. But I think just, you know, the way that they're leaving the frame creates a little bit of sense of mystery to it. And I like that the guy who's waiting is just, you know, oblivious to it. So that's my photographs, and hope you enjoyed them. Thanks very much.
Feedback. Great to hear about your works, and indeed from all of you. Is really, really insightful. I've been looking at the collection myself for the last, well, quite a while, as I've been organizing the exhibition, and so great to hear the stories behind them all. So how do I get the full screen, I wonder? Okay, so we're going to go to the audience now for some Q&A. So if anyone in the audience would like to ask one of the photographers a question, you can put up your hand. We actually have, instead of the roving mic, we're going to have a roving phone. And well, to warm up the Q&A, I'm going to just start with a question myself. Well, one thing, just listening to all of you speak, what occurs to me, I've been, you know, trying to sort of like play street photography in my mind. It's such an interesting activity, because it's something between an art form and a historical archive and a sport. Listening to you, Danielle, you know, like diving in front of cars and a game maybe. I mean, you sort of challenge each other to go out in the day and do things. It's so interesting. But yeah, I mean, some of you sort of touched upon already in your presentations, but just wanted to ask again about, you know, sort of like the approach when you're taking things. I'm going to start with you, Linda, and then if someone else wants to also come in on this question. So sort of like, firstly, the approach that you take, and then secondly, I wanted to ask you as well, how do you develop an aesthetic? Your aesthetic is like it's so strong and sort of you know, you can really see your style in it, and I'm just wondering, you know, for budding photographers out there, how would one go about to develop an aesthetic?
I think it comes with practice. just keep taking photographs, and you start to realize the things that really pull you into your own photographs. And I think you start to get drawn to particular, you figure out new angles or putting things in the foreground, and they become part of your aesthetic. You know, looking at you'll kind of go for particular perspectives, like looking at everyone's work there. It was amazing to see how everybody had their own, very much their own stamp, hugely. I think it's finding your camera that works for you, whether it's the iPhone or the Fuji or the Canon. I think that hugely contributes to the look of your photographs, the way, I mean, how close you'll get to people. I mean, I showed a collection of quite intimate and close photographs, and so many of the other photographs were wide and told such a kind of told you so much in the story, whereas mine were so close in. They were so different. It was amazing to see the stories that came through in Terry, Danielle, and Brendan's. It was fab. But I just think you kind of I suppose you're trying to find your own voice and what suits you, and whether that's kind of getting, you know, whether it's using wider lenses or you like to be further and use longer lenses to get in tighter. And I think you start to find a way of telling your story and the bit of that story that you like to tell. I don't know if I'm describing it very well, but yeah, practice definitely, and then it's colors as well. I think you notice everybody has their own. Like I like quite soft colors, and but I like evening light, so I'll particularly go out at particular times to try and capture light that works for my aesthetic, you know. So whether that's getting up at 5 a.m. or staying up late. I can't remember what the first question you asked was, Candice.
Oh, it was a bit diluted anyway. It was okay. Just sort of approach, and I don't know. It was more of a comment. It started off as more of a comment that there's so many different sort of like angles to street photography. Yeah, just my own appreciation of all of your work. So Danielle, do you want to add to that?
Yes, well, I totally agree with Linda. I think the style finds you. In my collective, we joke, I mean, I try to do serious. I don't seem to be able to do serious or deep the way other people can. I mean, sometimes I get there, but I'm drawn to the sort of the quirky, the surreal humor. So I think, like Linda said, over time, your style just settles. You just find what you like or what you're good at. But I mean, I like everybody's style. I mean, and I love all types of photography, but I just seem to, you know, notice one particular, you know, like I say, the more, you know, storytelling, humor side of street photography, even though I love all the aspects. And I really liked seeing everybody's work here tonight. It was great. I mean, it was very, very inspiring. But yeah, the style just will find you over time, or you'll find the style over time.
Great. Terry?
Yeah, in terms of style, yeah, like that, it just, like Danielle said, it just finds a kind of, I don't know how it happens, but I'm coming from maybe obviously not shooting as long as these guys, so my style could obviously change as the years go on, but at the minute I'm hugely like influenced by like cinematography and art and things like that, so that's where like the bold colors are coming from and things like that. So I was trying to recreate that kind of cinematic feel to the nighttime. And that's where kind of those bold colors were coming from, and that dreamlike kind of feel was coming from there. Kind of harken back to like my favorite movie would be Taxi Driver. So like that, the cinematography now is like that look, you know, kind of like roaming the streets like a moth, like looking for any like bit of light coming from like a lamp or whatever, and you know, just enhancing that to kind of like that, get that real feeling of that nighttime scene. So yeah, and I kind of like travel into like my daytime. Then I couldn't kind of dilute the colors. I kind of had to keep pushing them, you know, to the point of nearly non-reality at some points, but kind of trying to bring it back to reality a tiny bit. So yeah, look, that's my style at the minute, and it could change, it could stay the same, who knows? But like, yeah, exactly. Couldn't have said it any better. It definitely finds you, and you don't know how it kind of happens, but yeah.
Great. Brendan, would you like to add to that question? Oh, you're muted.
The classic mute. Yeah, I'd go along with everything that, you know, the other three have said. I think that it evolves over a period of time. I think, you know, that when you're starting out, I think, you know, that you know, when I do workshops and things like that, I tell people not to be afraid to copy, because I think imitation is like that. I know myself that it's a kind of an automatic thing that I'm still doing, because I just consume so much stuff that I just see so much photographers. It's inevitable then going to be imitating in a way, but then you get onto kind of, you've assimilated, and hopefully then you'll move on to innovation and have your own kind of identity on it. I think what Terry said is very true as well, that, you know, that it shouldn't be something which is kind of boxes you in, and that what could be your style today, you know, this time next year might be something different, because it's a path that we're on, it's a journey. And, you know, I think, yeah, that it's something that isn't permanent, and, you know, that it'll emerge organically, but, you know, to be experimental, be open to things, and to move with it.
Great stuff. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to pose a question for our artists? We have one in the back. So let's see if this works. This is a first. No. I don't know, could you guys hear that at home?
Yeah.
Okay, failing, if that doesn't work, then you don't need to use the mic, I don't think. We can try it. Okay, if this one doesn't work, then people have to come up to the podium.
Okay, can I be?
Oh, it's working.
Perfect. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you can hear my monotonous voice.
Can hold on, sorry, can you at home hear him? Or should the camera go a bit
needs a bit louder?
So,
hello?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Open up all the neighbors, so apologies. So I think you've all shown like some of your photos are amazing, and a lot of them are very close contact. You're kind of being within 2-3 meters of people from those shots. For someone who I guess is, I don't want to be shouted at for getting too close, and I think the difference between Germany and Ireland, what I've noticed is, I think privacy is a big thing, and I certainly don't get up too close because I'm fearful of your authorities coming after me, or people shouting at me. So did you gradually get into photographing people? And because originally I just shoot like buildings and streets, and did you ease your way into it, or did you just straight up just kind of go the daring approach and ask for forgiveness as opposed to permission? If that makes sense.
did you hear that? I think, yeah. Thomas, your phone is actually muted. So if you okay.
That was good.
So the question was about asking for forgiveness instead of asking for permission when you're taking photographs. You know, basically, yeah. How do you approach that challenge?
Yeah. So, like, I think it was asking how to get up close to people and things. I think that one of the progressions that you can have is take photographs initially from behind somebody, then move to take them, you know, kind of perpendicular, and then eventually you build up enough confidence to get in front of them. But I think the simple advice that I would give you is that, you know, that you need to be the photographer, and that you need to have faith in that what gets your visual interest. You have a right to be able to photograph it. You're not doing anything, wrong. And like that, I suppose the ethic, the rule of thumb that I used, that I put myself in the position of the person that I'm photographing. Would I like to be photographed in where they are, how they look at that moment? And I have anybody who's in distress or vulnerable or children, I tend not to take photographs of, but just the kind of the 180 degree, taking from behind, from the side, and then straight up. Practice with friends, that when you're in friendly with a group of friends, put the camera up in front of them, see how they react, and you'll build up the confidence. And the iPhone is a great way to do it because everybody's got one, and it's not as you're hoisting a big camera in front of their face. So that's another good tip.
Does anybody else want to add to that?
Most people don't mind, as Brendan, I think, referred to earlier. I think people, once your intentions are good, you have a smile on your face, people really don't mind. The few times I've had interactions have usually not been when I've taken that person. I mean, one was when I was taking a picture of a plant, so and I got yelled at. Whereas I've been taking pictures of people previously, but I get yelled at for a plant. So, and as the person asking the question, I think for our style of photography, candid is nicer. So yes, to speak to the person afterwards and show your intention, as Brendan referred to earlier as well. For me, like Brendan said, that if they...
Thank you. So do we have another question from the audience? Yes, a couple. Okay, so we'll go with Center and then over to Jack.
Hi, this is a question for Danielle. I really enjoyed your sense of humor that you had in your pictures and the comedy that you managed to derive from sort of everyday situations. But I was just wondering what you found in terms of when you stumbled upon a scene that you found humorous, or when you managed to frame it in a way that it was your sense of humor that we got from your photography, and if you find any difference between that and how to see them by people.
So the question is it that do I stumble across a scene or do I frame it that way? Is it?
Yeah, in some of the pictures it seems like you kind of stumble upon it, and other times it's like your sense of humor comes through, or that's kind of how I received it, I guess.
Yeah, I do both. I agree. I think, like, for example, the girl with the horse, obviously I framed that deliberately. Whereas the scene with the girl with the hair flying up, I mean, I didn't do anything there. That was just a funny scene. So, yeah, it's a mixture. I mean, sometimes it's as well that you need to wait a few seconds. You have a feeling a scene is going to be humorous or is going to unfold a certain way, and you hope it will. So you observe it because you don't want to take a picture and spoil the scene. So sometimes you get lucky and it works out. Or sometimes like that, you move in a certain way to create the scene a bit more to the way you want it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a question from Jack. And so is there another one here? Yes, we're disinfecting the mic. with disinfecting the wife. So Jack is over here, Thomas. Here, front, second row there.
Thanks very much. That was really nice work. I have a very simple question. I really enjoyed hearing about everyone's equipment, but we skipped Danielle, and I was wondering if I could ask you what you're using as a bit of a gearhead.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a bit embarrassing, but I actually had to go and look at my camera. I'm glad I wasn't asked a question. I had to look at my camera to I knew it was a Canon, but I'm such not a gearhead that I had to check the model. It's I wrote it down somewhere. It's a Canon EOS 70D. So, I mean, it does the job. I want something that's quick, and that I can just carry with me everywhere and not worry about too much. So that's what I use. So that's the only thing I use. And it has a kit lens, and that's it.
Yeah, I think I put the poster for the U-Van as well, with the man's arm with the ring and
I didn't hear the last bit, but
He said that he saw. Did you see in the U-Bahn? That he saw your poster and just really loved the image.
Oh, great! Thank you.
Having his breakfast. Thanks, Jack.
At 3 o'clock.
At 3 o'clock, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's a question in the back row. Neil Hoare is a photographer here based in Berlin.
It's not as good as these guys, so brilliant work. I suppose the post process is what I'm interested in. Obviously Terry is big into his colours and I would be the same. I just wonder how much time do you put into the post processing? Do you use Lightroom? Is there photoshopping happening, or do you stay pure and does it come straight from the camera? Is anybody shooting raw, or is anybody not shooting raw? And the iPhone, I feel like you can take a photograph on an iPhone, but it's really the post processing that can bring it to life. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyone has it.
Who do you want to ask that question to?
I suppose Brendan.
Brendan to start,
and then Terry maybe.
Brendan, Terry.
Yeah, so like you're saying that with the iPhone, as the editing brings the photograph to life. I disagree. I think that for me, photography is all about composition and getting it done in camera, and the editing that I would do for a given image would be about 90 seconds, 2 minutes maximum on Snapseed, and that, you know, like shooting at Fuji's or iPhone or any camera, for me, it's about get it done in camera, and the editing, you know, to use the cliche that it can make a good image better, but it can't make a bad image good. So editing would be the second. And when you're working in fractions of seconds, which photography is, that you can't go back and reshoot in a situation. So everything for me would be about composition. Everything with composition.
Yeah. So in terms of like the post processing, like Brendan said, 20 minutes, half an hour max. If you're going kind of past that, you're kind of like touching it too much. Just like the car and fodder Ted, you're just like tipping it and it's getting worse and worse as you're going on. But the reason the colors are like that is the time of night I'm shooting. It's kind of like blue hour. The colors are kind of that way anyway, and I'm just like ramping them up at like to 11 at some points, just to have like that kind of dream-like effect to it. Just gives it that it kind of takes away from reality a tiny bit and kind of takes you away. But yeah, like 20 minutes, half an hour on Lightroom maximum. Maybe thinking about certain movies that I've like watched in the past or whatever, and thinking of certain scenes that they might have used in terms of hues and colors, I might take from that. That's where I'm kind of getting my inspiration from. But yeah, not very long at all on Lightroom.
Great. Linda and Danielle, maybe you also want to add to that.
Well, I actually think like part of the point of sometimes for me shooting film is I just like how it comes out with my and I would go with a particular lab because I like the way they develop the film and scan it, and then once I get it I would tweak it a bit, but I wouldn't do a huge amount. You know, I would sometimes make it a bit warmer or colder, but not massive, you know. So yeah, that's the joy for me of shooting on film, because I like it the way it comes out. But if I'm shooting on digital, I would tend to do probably a bit more to make it look like film.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Danielle?
Yeah, I just shoot JPEG. A lot of my colleagues in my collective will shoot RAW and spend a bit of time with RAW, but I don't, and I've been given out for not doing that. But again, I just want to spend a few seconds on processing. I'm all about the act of taking the photograph rather than the act of processing. So the less you can do to street photography for me is better, because it means your photograph is more successful. But it doesn't mean I don't like other people who do process. It's just that's just the way I like it for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there one last question from the audience? Actually, Thomas, do you have your phone that checks the Facebook comments if there's any questions on Facebook? Is there a last question from the audience here at the embassy tonight? Somebody's checking the Facebook there for us. Okay, we don't have any. Oh, John, yes. Roving Mike.
and thank you to all the photographers for just telling us so much about their work. Really an evening well spent, I think, for all of us. And looking at this normally grey corner of the immense Mona Lisa that we see every day, and looking at the colours and the different subjects and the lights, obviously, and two iPhones beside me that are normally just used for work. So I'm feeling a little bit inspired, and I was really curious about Terry's kind of path to street photography, because he's come to it so recently in 2019, I think I remember you saying. And if you could just tell us a little bit more about that path, because it might convince me to start my own path, given that I have some, I suppose, of the ingredients at my hand that I didn't realize maybe before. Thanks.
Yeah, so 2019, I was heading to South Africa on a holiday, going to safari, picked up a Canon, as you do, just kind of shooting some lions and whatever I could find. And I just kind of thought, is this photography for me? Like, it just wasn't capturing my imagination. So we kind of was walking around the streets of South Africa and seeing some like really kind of vibrant scenes and things like that. And I was like, oh, this is much more interesting than safari and wild animals for some reason. So I immediately came home, started hitting the streets in Cork, and started using the camera on the streets. And looking for different scenes, interesting people, things like that. And I actually became a tourist in my own city. When the camera was in my hand, I was looking at everything, every crack in the wall, every window up high, every passing person, looking for anything interesting, and was just snapping it with the camera. So and it just kind of evolved from there. And obviously I had an interest in imagery and, like I said, kind of cinematography previously to that as well. And that kind of just kind of brought it out more in me then. So I just kind of kept going with it, and that's kind of it really. And long may it continue. Always a student.
Great, thank you. It is like, or it seems to me anyway. I mean, I've never done street photography myself, but it seems like it is sort of another form of safari in the city.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, so thank you all so much for taking part in tonight's Q&A discussion, and of course thank you for taking part in the exhibition, which will be running for the next 2 weeks around Berlin and also in Frankfurt and also in Cologne, where there will be an event. If anybody is watching at home in Cologne, there will be an event for the finissage in Galerie Lichtblick. So you're very welcome to attend that. I'm talking here, I mean, you're also welcome. You can get a train to Cologne, of course. So all the details are on our website, the embassy's website. There is a dedicated website for the exhibition that we mentioned earlier, but for those who joined us late, it's irelandinframe.com. There is a selection of the collection on the website. You can see an exhibition, an online exhibition version of the full exhibition. And it will also give you the details of course, of the wonderful artists and of the venues where you can take part in the trail. So once again, I'd just like for all of us to put our hands together and give the wonderful artists a big round of applause. Linda Brownlee, Terry McAuliffe, Brendan O'Shea, and Danielle Horton. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Candice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For those at home, you can follow the embassy Instagram and Facebook at IRLEMBBERLIN. That's IRL Berlin. And you can follow, you can sign up to our monthly newsletter that will tell you all about our events, which we're really hoping are going to be more frequent, more hybrid. We've got the roving camera phone down. That's brilliant. So we're delighted to welcome you back here to the embassy again, and we'll be happy to see you all again online. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.